I'd been reborn back to my 18-year-old self, in senior year of high school, when the new transfer student, the campus belle, turned out to be my future wife, Chloe Miller. Back then, Chloe fell for me at first sight and clung to me relentlessly, but now she's utterly cold and wouldn't give me a second glance. I looked down at my nearly 250-pound body and immediately understood why. After all, when we met in my previous life, I was already a handsome guy. It's no wonder she fell for me. But why did our first meeting have to be brought forward to senior year? Back in senior year, I was ugly, fat, and bottom of the class, completely unworthy of someone like her, who came from a wealthy family and was stunningly beautiful. Yet just as I was about to give up on Chloe completely, she unexpectedly reached out to help me. Only, her gaze remained as cold as frost. Don't overthink it. It was nothing. What should I do now? Waiting online. Urgent 1. I woke up only to find myself back in my senior year high school classroom. Staring at the familiar yet unfamiliar chemical equations on the blackboard, I could only sigh that senior year was truly the peak of my academic knowledge. At first I thought I was just having a nightmare about senior year, but when I woke up the next day hearing my mom urging me to go to school, I finally realized I had been reborn. I returned to the darkest days of my senior year in high school. My luxurious apartment and beautiful wife had all vanished like smoke in the wind. Many people longed to return to their student days to rewrite their lives and mend the regrets of their youth. But not me. Before my rebirth, I was 28, thriving in my career and living a fulfilling life. What's more, I had just married my wife, Chloe Miller, a year earlier. At our wedding, I pledged my lifelong devotion to her. Now that I'm back in senior year, what will become of her? Is she doing well in that world? 2. I frantically searched online for information about reincarnation and parallel universes. Just when I thought those 10 years of life might have been a dream, Chloe Miller actually transferred into my class. When our homeroom teacher brought her into the classroom, the entire class erupted in an uproar. Oh my god, she's gorgeous. She might not attract guys, but she'll definitely attract girls. I could totally charm any guy. I'm already done for. Goddess, please take my heart. Chloe stood expressionlessly on the podium giving a brief self-introduction. I didn't even clearly hear what she was saying, because the moment I saw her, countless images instantly flashed through my mind. We met when we were 22 and started dating immediately. After 5 years of romance, we smoothly entered marriage. For 6 full years, every trace of my life bore her mark. I've witnessed every expression of hers and every significant moment throughout those 6 years. Whether joyful or painful moments, we've passed through them all together. But I had never seen 18-year-old Chloe. So those extra 10 years of memories in my mind weren't delusions after all. She truly exists in this world, and if all goes well, she'll marry me when she's 27. But clearly our first meeting should have been after I graduated from college at 22. So why has our encounter been moved up to senior year of high school? Chloe looked exactly like I remembered her, except her 18-year-old face had a bit more baby fat than in her 20s, making her look even cuter. Classmate, is this seat taken? She walked down from the podium, her question pulling me out of my memories. Realizing she was asking me, I quickly shook my head at her. There's nobody here, you can sit here first. She gave me a somewhat distant nod, her face devoid of any extra expression, and didn't even spare me another glance. Chloe caused a sensation on her very first day at school, being unanimously recognized as the most beautiful girl in the entire school. During break times, students from other classes even crowded at the door, eager to catch a glimpse of the legendary beauty. She spoke very little, not saying a single word to me all morning, only uttering a "please move aside" when school ended. In my previous life, from our first meeting to marriage, I'd never witnessed Chloe being this cold toward me. After all, back then she fell in love with me at first sight and began relentlessly pursuing me. How could she be so aloof now? Looking down, I suddenly noticed my protruding belly and inwardly groaned, this is bad. Now I weigh a solid 250 pounds, and it wasn't until I entered university that I gradually slimmed down and became handsome. Right now, I look exactly like an obese otaku, so Chloe's coldness toward me is perfectly normal. But clearly, in my past life at this time, we hadn't even met yet. I racked my brain searching through memories from senior year, certain there had been no transfer student named Chloe in our class back then, and I remember Chloe told me she attended high school abroad. What exactly happened here? Could it be that she also came back through rebirth, intentionally came to my high school looking for me, but upon seeing the 250-pound version of me, didn't dare to acknowledge me? But I had told her before that my high school self was overweight and didn't do well academically. Chloe said she was the school beauty in high school, while I said I was the school joke. Back then, we sat on the rooftop terrace gazing at the starry sky as I confided in her about the helplessness and pain I experienced in high school. Being overweight seemed like an original sin. On the journey of education, every overweight student became the target of collective mockery in class. Even if you said nothing and did nothing, they would fabricate endless material to ridicule overweight people out of thin air. For a fat person, even breathing felt wrong. Then there was the fact that my academic performance ranked at the bottom in high school. The teachers all looked down on me too, unwilling to waste their time on someone like me. Sometimes I would be bullied by cliques in my class. When I reported it to the homeroom teacher, she said, "Why don't they bully others and only target you? Shouldn't you reflect on yourself?" My 18th year was dark and gloomy, the most painful year of my life. When Chloe heard my story back then, her face was full of heartache. She hugged me tightly and said with a choked voice, "I'm sorry I came too late. It's okay, it's all in the past." I forced a smile to comfort her, then added jokingly, "Besides, if I'd been a chubby girl when we met, you wouldn't have liked me anyway." Hearing my words, Chloe leaned in and kissed my cheek, almost cooing as she said, "I love you just the way you are." But now, facing my overweight self, she no longer showed any love for me. Sure enough, those words were all lies. Chloe's beauty was too dazzling. By choosing to sit next to me, she made many classmates who already disliked me loathe me even more. Some people even urged Chloe to switch seats, with the school football team's star quarterback Brad Johnson going so far as to spread rumors that I smelled. "Chloe, guys like Leo Carter who are overweight get really smelly in summer, and he's so big he'd probably crowd you out. Why don't you sit next to me instead? I'm an athlete, in great shape, strong too. I could help carry your stuff." Chloe didn't even look up. "I like it just fine here." When I was little, a fortune teller told me people with the last name Carter would bring me good luck. If you've got too much energy to burn, you could always volunteer carrying bricks at the construction site next door. My heart skipped a beat. She'd said the same thing when she was chasing after me before. At the time I hadn't understood why she was so persistent about me. She'd also said Carter's brought her luck, that she was determined to marry a man with the last name Carter. It's just a shame that Chloe at that time always smiled when facing me, but now, she always wears a cold expression when looking at me. Is it all because of my body? I clenched my fists, secretly resolving that I must work hard to lose weight and become worthy of her. Since she is no longer the Chloe from the future who spent 6 years with me, this time it's my turn to take the initiative. As long as we end up together, I can endure any pain in the process. On the eve of the school sports meet, Brad started rallying the class to sign up. No one volunteered for difficult events like the 10,000-meter run. He turned to me, "Leo Carter, you sit there like an old man stuffing yourself every day. Isn't it time you contributed to the class?" I frowned. "I'm too heavy to run. Your grades are at the bottom of the class, and you're no good at sports either. What else can you do besides eat?" He spoke mockingly, his gaze filled with contempt as he looked at me. "Honestly, Leo Carter is really dragging our class down. He's so fat and does so poorly in school. What a waste of air alive, a waste of soil dead. Why is he the only one in the class with the last name Carter, getting to sit next to the goddess?" The other guys who didn't like me also chimed in together. I clenched my fists and refused once more. "I won't go." "You have no right to refuse. I'm the sports committee member, and the teacher said that if no one signs up for an event, I can assign it. If you don't go, it means you lack collective honor. You'll just be deadweight to our class." Brad wore an expression of utter confidence. If it had really been my 18-year-old self, his words would have crushed me. I might even have agreed to his demands, only to make a fool of myself at the sports meet. Back then, I didn't know how to refuse or dare to resist. The cowardice and timidity of youth had stripped me of any will to fight, leaving me passively accepting whatever came my way. But the mind inhabiting this body now belongs to a 28-year-old man. There's no way I'd obediently play along. I was just about to argue when Chloe, who had remained silent until then, spoke up. "You're being so noisy." She stood up and glanced at Brad. "If he doesn't want to go, then he doesn't have to. You're in the wrong for forcing him like this. I'll report you to the sports event organizer and our homeroom teacher." Brad seemed caught off guard that Chloe would stand up for me. His expression darkened as he stammered, But what I said was true. His exam scores have already dragged down the class average. As a member of the class, he hasn't contributed anything." Chloe cut him off directly. "The new semester exams haven't even started yet, have they? No one stays stagnant forever. Maybe this time he'll score above the average?" Brad already had a crush on her, and hearing these words from his goddess, he stopped arguing and just glared at me fiercely. "Leo Carter, then let's see if you can pass the class average in this exam. If you can't, you'll run to the playground and yell 3 times that you're trash. What if I score higher than the class average? Will you apologize to me in front of the whole school then?" I raised an eyebrow at him. "Deal." He nodded with a confident expression, as if victory was already in his grasp. Not that I could blame him for being overconfident. My academic performance was indeed too dismal for words. Even in my previous life, my grades remained at the bottom until graduation, and the university I got into was far from satisfactory. This has always been a lifelong regret of mine. Especially after meeting Chloe, an Ivy League graduate, I often felt unworthy of her. Although she always comforted me by saying education background didn't matter, that we were a perfect match made in heaven, I still frequently felt inferior about my academic qualifications. I still have 1 year left before the college entrance exam in this lifetime. I must seize the opportunity. There's only 1 month left until the midterm exams this semester. Looking at the slogan on the blackboard that says 270 days until graduation, I know I need to hurry up. I didn't expect Chloe to help me when Brad was giving me a hard time. After all, we've been desk mates for a few days, and she hasn't seriously spoken a single word to me. Thank you for helping me just now, I thanked Chloe after Brad left. Without even lifting her head, she spoke mildly, it was nothing. Besides, you were being too loud. Seeing her indifferent demeanor, I forced a bitter smile. She truly wasn't the Chloe I knew anymore. My Chloe would never treat me with such coldness. Moreover, studying was the priority now. Instead of disturbing her further, I began drafting my own study plan. Actually, I'm not stupid. In my previous life, my poor academic performance was caused by psychological issues stemming from school and family, which plunged me into anxiety and left me unable to focus on studying. After graduating from high school and entering university, my environment changed, and my grades improved immediately. I achieved the highest GPA in my major and passed various English proficiency tests with ease. After 4 years of university, high school English and math became a piece of cake for me. As long as I improve my Chinese and science composite scores, I can get into my dream university. I spent half a month reviewing all the science knowledge points and then wanted to test my current true level by solving a set of mock exam papers the teacher had just handed out. I struggled for a long time on the last multiple choice question in physics, unable to find a solution no matter how hard I tried. My scratch paper was densely covered with diagrams and models related to that problem. This question involves the model of charged particles undergoing acceleration and deflection in an electric field. You need to be good at converting electrical problems into mechanical ones. Chloe took my scratch paper and, with just a few strokes, sketched out the solution path. I know she's an excellent student. She usually finishes a set of problems in just tens of minutes, as if there's no question she can't solve. But I never expected her to notice that I've been stuck on this particular problem for so long, and even take the initiative to help me solve it. I stared at her blankly, her profile unchanged from our past life, gentle yet tinged with a hint of determination, her long lashes trembling slightly, casting delicate shadows over her eyelids. Sensing my gaze, her cheeks actually flushed slightly pink before she abruptly set down her pen. I happened to do the set yesterday, and I noticed you've redrawn this diagram several times. Thank you, I said sincerely to her. Even if she wasn't the Chloe from my previous world, I knew she was a kind-hearted girl. After all, she had already helped me several times. Indeed, no matter where or when, Chloe always shines with innate kindness. Don't mention it. I just can't stand watching you be so clumsy. Chloe snorted coldly before turning her head to focus on the problems in her workbook. Watching her revert to her icy demeanor, I shrugged my shoulders. She probably still dislikes me for being overweight, so while completing my study plan, I also started losing weight. In this lifetime, if possible, I hope my comeback can come earlier. I replaced all the oily and salty foods with healthy, fat-reducing meals. Perhaps because I devoted more attention to studying, my mind was constantly buzzing with knowledge points, so I didn't find these diet meals unpalatable after all. This must be what people call spiritual strength. When my inner world is rich enough, I no longer care about material deprivation. 5. Chloe is such a kind person. I was too shy to speak to her, but every time she noticed me stuck on a problem for too long, she would take the initiative to explain it to me. If you get stuck next time, just ask me directly. Chloe flashed me a slightly proud expression and said, after all, I know how to solve all of these. I couldn't help but flash a slightly indulgent smile. Okay, thank you for your hard work, Chloe. Time flew by quickly, and soon it was time for the first major exam of the semester, the midterms. On the first day of exams, I ran into Brad outside the examination hall. He looked down at me condescendingly and said, "Trash, remember to keep your promise." I shrugged my shoulders. I hope you are too. After a month of diligent study, my grades improved by leaps and bounds. Though not reaching top-tier performance, I could easily score above the class average now. Following midterms came the short autumn break, when my parents resumed their usual quarreling. In my past life, this was the day my mother discovered my father's affair. At first, my father desperately tried to explain himself, begging for my mother's forgiveness. But my mom completely refused to accept his apology, continuously kicking and hitting my dad. For so many years, wasn't it hard enough for me to sacrifice for you and this family? Do you know how much I love you? My dad frowned, looking impatient. Is what you call love just controlling me? If you hadn't pressured me so much, why would I have sought other women outside? The truth is, my dad had been cheating long ago. Otherwise, my mom wouldn't have been so paranoid. After all, a woman's sixth sense can be terrifyingly accurate at times. It's just that before there were only some traces, but this time my mother caught concrete evidence. You all go to hell, you and your son both go to hell. My mother grabbed something from the table and hurled it at my father. My father dodged it. Probably my mother's hysterical attitude completely disgusted him. Since that's the case, let's get a divorce. You're downright insane, completely unreasonable. After uttering these irresponsible words, my father stormed out of the house slamming the door, just like in my past life. Though it was my father who wronged my mother, her emotions had become far too extreme. She began resenting me because of him in that previous life, she kicked me out right after my father filed for divorce. This time, she didn't have to chase me out, I'd already packed my things beforehand. Sure enough, it wasn't long before she came at me in hysterics. Since your father treated me like that, you might as well not stay home either. Get out, all of you. I never want to see you again. Her entire body trembled, consumed by agitation. Truth be told, I'd known even in my previous life that my mother never loved me, though she was also a pitiable woman who had done nothing wrong. But her love for me was entirely because of my father. When things were good between them, she was a gentle mother. Yet every time she caught traces of my father's infidelity, not daring to vent her anger at him, she would turn her hostility toward me instead. My emotions completely collapsed under her alternating attitude toward me. In my previous life, I left home during the autumn break of my senior year in high school and never forgave my parents since then, even though I still invited them to my wedding and brought them gifts on holidays. But deep in my heart, they were no longer family I could trust. I only fulfilled my blood-related obligations to them. Trust and love were all given to Chloe. My thoughts cleared as I left home with my already packed luggage. In my previous life, I was penniless and slept on park benches throughout the entire vacation. When there was truly no other choice, I started singing outdoors in the park for donations. Perhaps all overweight people possess a talent for singing. My voice was hailed by many as heavenly. Soon enough, quite a few people stopped for me, scanning the Venmo QR code in front of me to pay and request songs. There was even a talent scout from an influencer agency who wanted to sign me as a streamer for $1,000 a month. At the time, I knew nothing about the internet and was desperately short on money, so I had no choice but to agree to the contract. To my surprise, the stark contrast between my voice and my appearance made me an instant hit on the streaming platform. The only problem was every clause in that contract the agent signed with me was downright exploitative. I can't get a share of the profits. No matter how much I earn, I only receive a basic salary of $1,000, and I have to stream for a full 6 hours every day before I can log off. To meet those 6-hour streaming demands, I had even less time to focus on my studies, and in the end, I only ended up going to a community college. My contract with the agency was for 4 years, and it wasn't until after I graduated from college that I started running my own account and earning more money. Still, it was thanks to that monthly $1,000 back then that I didn't have to ask my parents for living expenses again. In fact, I managed to live quite comfortably. This time I won't fall into the trap again. I'm going to turn my life around and reclaim everything that belongs to me. 6. Just like in my past life, I printed my Venmo QR code and hung it nearby with the words, "Scan to request a song." At the same time, I turned on my phone to live stream the performance online, allowing netizens to send gifts and request songs too. Soon a circle of evening strollers gathered around me, with many couples scanning the code to request songs for each other. Many netizens in the live stream room sent me gifts, and in just one evening, I earned $500. After dark, I ended my live stream, and the surrounding onlookers gradually dispersed. But there was still one person standing in front of me who hadn't left. "So you're busking? Really that broke?" Chloe remained as icy as ever, her voice utterly indifferent. "How did you know I was here?" My heart skipped a beat. After we got together, I had told her about this past experience. Now she suddenly appeared here. Could it be that she also retained memories from our previous lives? Bored at home scrolling through TikTok, I saw your live stream and decided to come downstairs for the live version. She walked over and sat beside me. "Your singing isn't bad at all. It's not entirely hopeless like they say." Realizing she was complimenting me, I embarrassingly blushed. "Thanks." But hearing her reason for coming here made my heart sink. It seemed she truly wasn't my Chloe. She opened her phone, scanned my QR code, and entered a number. A notification chimed from her phone, and I saw a $10,000 transfer record. Startled, I asked, "Why did you send me money?" "I want to request a song. Sing the reversed clock for me." My throat suddenly felt tight. "Why this song?" Chloe's expression remained impassive. Under the hazy streetlight, her eyes were shadowed and unreadable. "I like it. But you gave way too much?" Although I knew Chloe was wealthy and enjoyed charity work, I never imagined she'd transfer this much to me. "Seeing you look so pitifully like a homeless stray, who could resist being kind? Consider it poverty relief." Chloe shrugged her shoulders with an indifferent expression. The Chloe in my memories was gentle, always kind to everyone. But in this lifetime, she's been consistently cold, yet still helps me with the worst expressions and harshest words. I gazed into her eyes as I sang. "The clock weaving through time's tapestry turns backwards, returning to the space where I first loved you." Gazing at the face that was both familiar and yet strange before me, my eyes grew slightly moist. "I've missed you so much, Chloe. Why are you crying?" Noticing my tears, she asked with some curiosity, "Do you believe in rebirth? What if I told you I'd been reborn here from 10 years in the future? Would you believe me?" I stared into her eyes, not daring to miss any change in her expression. Chloe let out a mocking laugh. "Would you believe I'm the reincarnation of George Washington? Hurry up and send me money. When I return to the White House, I'll immediately appoint you as Secretary of Defense." Taking in my speechless expression, she stood up. "It's getting dark. Time for me to go home and sleep." I nodded at her. "Be careful. Do you want me to walk you home?" Chloe shook her head and stretched. No need. My home is nearby. The most important thing for a high schooler is to study hard. Just use my money to get through graduation. You can focus on your live streaming career after college entrance exams. After all, getting into a good school without regrets is more important than making money. I knew Chloe was absolutely right. There's only one chance at the college entrance exam, but countless opportunities to make money. So without fuss, I straightforwardly accepted the money. I'll pay you back this $10,000 when I'm rich. Chloe had already passed me without looking back, just waving a hand in my direction. The silhouette under the moonlight gradually overlapped with her from before the rebirth. Was she really not that Chloe? With the money Chloe gave me, I rented a place near the school for easy commuting. I bought some daily necessities, furnished the place simply, and just like that, made it my home. Without the need for part-time jobs, in this life, I could devote all my time to studying. The autumn break quickly came to an end, and on the first day of school, the midterm exam results were announced. I scored 1450 on my SAT practice test, a full 150 points above the class average, with near-perfect scores in both math and English. This left Brad completely stunned, especially since he had only managed to score 1300. As a student-athlete, Brad only needed his SAT scores to meet the minimum requirement to have many prestigious universities to choose from. So he always looked down on others, though his grades were merely above average, yet he considered himself a top student. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Leo Carter, did you cheat? Brad looked utterly disbelieving. I shook my head. I hope you can honor your bet like a man. Remember your words. Can't you act like a proper man? Chloe crossed her arms with a look that said she was ready to enjoy the show. Brad, still hopelessly infatuated with Chloe, gritted his teeth at her words and nodded at me. Fine, I apologize, he said. Brad apologized to me on the playground. Though he still didn't back down entirely, he didn't dare target me anymore, especially since my grades had surpassed his. Far from slacking off, I doubled down on my studying, pushing myself even harder. The SAT score cutoff for top universities in our state is around 1400 points. With my current grades, I could choose a better state university or a lower-ranked prestigious school. But if possible, I want to attend the very best university. The competition isn't over yet. We could both be dark horses. How do you know you won't succeed without giving it your all? I studied so intensively that I even lost a noticeable amount of weight. Chloe ranked first in her grade, outpacing the second-place student by a full 20 points. With her grades, she could easily attend the most prestigious Harvard University. If possible in this lifetime, I want to become worthy of her, or at least get a little closer. Without the noise from my parents, I could focus better on my studies. Every day after school, I would go home and work through 2 sets of practice exams, then seek Chloe's help with any difficult questions the next day at school. Although Chloe remained cold towards me, I always felt her indifference was somewhat feigned, because several times during class, I noticed her stealing glances at me, yet when our eyes met, she would immediately turn her head away. However, the intense workload left me no time to dwell on these budding feelings. A high school student's most important task is studying. Even if I truly still loved her, all I could do now was study hard to narrow the academic gap between us. My grades steadily improved, and in the final mock exam, I finally caught up right behind her. I ranked second in the entire school, only 8 points behind her. Leo Carter, I never expected you to be this smart. You've improved so quickly. Chloe smiled at me for the first time, genuinely praising me. It's all thanks to your excellent teaching. If you hadn't shown me how to approach those difficult problems, I wouldn't have achieved this score. I looked into her eyes and sincerely expressed my gratitude. Chloe still wore a smile, but it lacked its former warmth, carrying instead a trace of distance. Then you'll need to keep pushing yourself, so we can attend the same school together. Alright, I nodded, forcing a smile that couldn't quite mask the bitterness in my heart. Time flew by in the blink of an eye, and soon the SAT exam arrived. The night before the exam, Chloe sent me a text. Good luck on your test. I put down my phone, but my mind flashed back to her from my previous life. Nostalgic for those bygone days, I drifted off into a hazy sleep without even realizing it. A restful night's sleep, though my mental age is now 29. I still couldn't help feeling somewhat nervous facing the SAT exam. These very questions have become the watershed moment on most people's life paths. Yet the moment I received the test booklet, all that nervousness vanished instantly. Every question before me was familiar, and solutions immediately popped into my mind the instant I saw them. Hard work never lets anyone down. On the day the results came out, our class held a reunion party. Chloe lived up to expectations by ranking first in the city, while I came in a close second, just slightly behind her. We could finally go to Harvard together. I planned to start pursuing her once we got to university. This time I would take the initiative, hoping that in this life we could be as happy together as we were in our past life. However, when the homeroom teacher congratulated me, they sighed and said, it's just a shame Chloe is planning to study abroad. Otherwise, I would have had 2 students admitted to Harvard in my class this year. My pupils trembled in shock as I turned to Chloe, my face filled with disbelief. Why are you going abroad? I asked Chloe as the rest of the class erupted into chaos around us. My voice choked up as I stared into her eyes. Chloe looked up at me with her usual indifferent expression. Tired of staying in America, figured I'd see the world. What, gonna miss me? Promise me, you'll wait for me at Harvard. My voice trembled slightly. Was she about to leave me again? Although Chloe had indeed attended university abroad in her previous life, in this lifetime, she came to my high school, everything was already different. Her expression turned cold, and her gaze held a hint of indifference as she looked at me. I was just joking around with you casually, and you actually took it seriously? How boring. At that moment, my heart felt as though it was being sliced to pieces by 1,000 cuts. I didn't know what to say, so I just picked up the wine glass on the table and downed it in one gulp. Yet Chloe quickly snatched the wine glass from my hands. Are you trying to kill yourself? You're allergic to alcohol. I choked on my drink from her sudden movement. Coughing twice, I looked up with unexpected delight. Chloe, how did you know I'm allergic to alcohol? You've also come back from 10 years in the future, haven't you? What are you talking about? I don't understand, Chloe said, no longer paying me any attention as she hurriedly got up to leave. I chased after her and grabbed her wrist. Chloe, how long are you going to keep hiding the truth from me? Turning back, tears were already streaming down her face. Fine, I'll tell you then. It's true, I came back from 10 years in the future because I needed to change your life, to make sure you never choose me again. With a trembling voice, I asked, why? Because you don't like me anymore? Chloe looked at me, shaking her head with visible pain. Because you're destined to die for me, for Chloe Miller, and I can't accept that. As she spoke, Chloe's eyes reddened. Glittering tears slowly rolled down from the corners of her eyes. And then she revealed everything she had been hiding from me, laying it all bare. The world I lived in turned out to be a novel, and she was an otherworldly traveler who came to this world on a mission. I was merely a supporting male character belonging to the heroine Chloe. She appeared when I was 22, and her first mission in this world was to pursue and marry me. When the plot progressed to my 28th year, I would die saving Chloe, while she would meet the true male protagonist and live happily ever after. In her previous life, she witnessed my death and successfully completed her mission. Yet the world of this novel would endlessly loop unless someone broke its storyline. She knew I would keep dying for Chloe, who came here to complete missions. Unable to accept reality after leaving this world upon mission completion, she spent an enormous amount of system points to re-enter, arriving precisely during my senior year of high school. Understanding my lifelong insecurity about educational background, she decided to help transform my destiny, to send me to a prestigious university and grant me a new life. Simultaneously, she wanted me to hate her. This way, when another traveler possessed Chloe's body 4 years later, I would be immune to being conquered by her charms. Yet she couldn't keep up the act. The moment I picked up the wine glass, her instincts made her knock it from my hand. I'm about to leave this world. I can't change Chloe's life. She must study at that overseas university, then wait until she's 22 when her body will be taken over by the next time traveler. Chloe wiped her tears haphazardly, looking utterly pitiful. I don't know why you've been reborn with memories, but you must remember, I'm leaving this world soon. The Chloe that comes after won't be me. You absolutely mustn't marry her. As long as you change your life's course, this world will break free from the constraints of the original novel and escape the cycle. Then she looked at me with a hint of self-mockery. Am I stupid, do you think? I actually fell in love with a character from a novel. But I want to tell you, Leo Carter, you're really amazing. The days spent with you have been so happy. I hugged her and whispered her name, Chloe. It turned out all her coldness toward me this past year was an act. She had been restraining herself all along, hiding her love for me. She used up all her points just to change the fate of a side character like me. I was simultaneously moved and heartbroken, but at that moment, Chloe in my arms fainted. More than 10 minutes later, the person in my arms slowly regained consciousness, yet the gaze she directed at me was utterly unfamiliar. I knew then that the Chloe who belonged to me had already left. How is she doing in that world? Chloe went abroad, while I went to report at Harvard. I used to rack my brains but never imagined that Chloe was actually a traveler from another world, while I was just a side character in a novel. But since something like rebirth could happen, being transported into a book started to seem plausible too. I lost weight and remained academically exceptional. Gradually, many outstanding girls began confessing to me, but closing my eyes, Chloe's figure still floated into my mind. Is she completing missions in some other world now? But I truly miss her so much. A year later, another transfer student arrived in the class again. This is Chloe Miller, an exchange student from a top foreign university. Let's all give Chloe a warm welcome. The girl on the podium glanced at me, yet her gaze felt strangely familiar. She walked over, just like in the old days. May I sit beside you? I nodded at her, my eyes slightly moist. The system saw how I couldn't eat or drink after returning, so it petitioned the main god to let me stay in this world permanently. I spent all my accumulated points to seal this world's data. No more transmigrators will be able to enter from now on. The moment class ended, Chloe eagerly pulled me aside to explain. Then does that mean you can't return to your original home either? She nodded, yet her eyes looking at me were filled with affection. Yes, I can't go back. But Leo Carter, wherever you are is my home. The end.